The cold silence of the alien space station was broken only by the soft hum of advanced technology. Deep within the station's most secure research lab, a team of elite alien scientists was on the verge of a discovery that could change the fate of their empire. For years, they had studied the remnants of human civilization, piecing together fragments of Earth's long-lost history. Humans, a species that once thrived on a small planet in a far corner of the galaxy, were now only a memory in the galaxy's grand timeline. However, the alien scientists had found something that could unlock the secrets of Earth's downfall, a relic from humanity's past that had somehow survived the ravages of time, an ancient cryo-chamber, lost among the stars. Buried on a forgotten world, it had remained hidden for centuries, an enigma that even the most advanced aliens had failed to solve. Until now. With eager excitement, the scientists gathered around the chamber, their large eyes gleaming with anticipation. This was no ordinary discovery. They had successfully deciphered the complex mechanisms that kept the chamber sealed, and now, with trembling hands, they began to activate the long-dormant technology. A series of beeping alarms echoed through the lab as the cryo-chamber's systems powered up, slowly releasing the seal. "I can't believe it," one of the scientists whispered. "After all these years, we're going to awaken a human." The chamber's glass door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a figure wrapped in glowing energy. It was humanoid in shape, but its skin appeared pale, almost translucent, and its eyes were closed, as if frozen in time. The scientists couldn't help but marvel at the sight. This human was far older than anything they had encountered before, and yet its preservation technology was beyond anything the aliens had seen. "This is incredible." "The last remnants of Earth," another scientist said, shaking with excitement. But as they watched, their excitement quickly turned to confusion. The human's chest suddenly rose, followed by a loud exhale as it began to stir. The soft, lifeless figure they had expected to encounter was now moving, slowly, deliberately. The human's eyes snapped open, glowing with an intensity that sent shivers down the alien spines. The alien scientists stood frozen in place. The human's eyes weren't vacant or confused as they had anticipated. They were fierce, alive with a fire that sent a surge of fear through their entire species. This wasn't a weak, helpless human from a forgotten age. This was a warrior. The human's breathing quickened, and with a swift movement, he sat up. His muscles, though stiff from centuries of sleep, still held an incredible amount of strength. His body, now fully awake, radiated an aura of power and resilience. His eyes scanned the room, taking in the unfamiliar surroundings, and the alien scientists instantly realized their grave mistake. This human was no ordinary relic. The lead scientist stepped forward, his voice shaky. Who are you?" he asked in a tone that wavered between awe and fear. The human's gaze locked onto the scientist, his expression hardening with an intensity that sent a chill through the room. For a moment, there was silence, broken only by the sound of the human's deep, controlled breathing. Then, without warning, he moved. In a blur of motion, the human's arm shot out, knocking the scientist aside with the ease of swatting away an insect. The alien stumbled back, crashing into a series of consoles as his fellow scientists gasped in shock. The human's body seemed to react on its own, instinctively defending itself, as though the long years of cryo-sleep had not dulled his senses or skills. Panic began to spread through the lab. "Activate the containment field," one of the scientists shouted. But it was already too late. The human surged forward, his body moving with the kind of grace and speed that seemed unnatural. He reached out, grabbing one of the alien consoles and ripping it from its mount. Sparks flew, and the room erupted into chaos. The scientists scrambled to stop him, but the human was far too fast, far too powerful. The first containment field shot up from the ground, attempting to trap the human, but he didn't even flinch. With a single punch, he shattered the force field, sending a shockwave through the room. The scientists watched in horror as their advanced technology, which had been designed to control even the strongest of beings, fell apart in the face of this human's might. The human didn't hesitate, his hands reached out again, sending another wave of destruction through the lab. It wasn't just his physical power that terrified the aliens, it was the raw, unbridled fury in his eyes. This was a warrior, not a mere subject of scientific curiosity. His body was a weapon, and his anger was his fuel. The scientists had no idea what they had just unleashed, but it was clear that they were no longer in control. "Seal the lab." Now, the lead scientist yelled, but the command came too late. The human's primal instincts had already taken over. With a growl of frustration, he grabbed the nearest object, a heavy piece of alien machinery, and hurled it across the room. It smashed into a control panel, causing the lights to flicker and the station's artificial gravity to momentarily malfunction. In that instant, chaos erupted. The lab's artificial gravity went haywire, pulling everything from the floor and sending the alien scientists into the air. They flailed helplessly as the human, unperturbed by the disorienting conditions, landed firmly on his feet, his eyes scanning the room for his next move. The human's actions were swift, calculated, and deliberate. The alien scientists, once confident in their advanced technology and superiority, were now helpless in the face of a being they couldn't control. The human was far too powerful. Too resourceful for them to even begin understanding. One of the scientists, trembling, attempted to communicate with the human. "Please, we mean no harm. We only wish to learn." But the human didn't respond with words. Instead, he turned, his hands still trembling from the immense power pulsing through his body. He was no longer listening to the aliens' pleas for mercy. He had only one goal, to break free. With an almost supernatural burst of energy, the human sprinted toward the walls of the lab. The aliens could only watch as he leapt, his body twisting midair to slam into the reinforced walls. The sound of metal bending and cracking echoed through the lab as the walls began to break apart under the force of his attack. The alien scientists scrambled to control the situation, but it was too late. The human had broken free, and as the lab descended into utter chaos, his eyes remained locked onto the one thing that mattered: freedom. His body, honed for battle over centuries of war and survival, had awakened from its long sleep, and with it, a force beyond anything the aliens could have imagined. They had made a grave mistake by awakening him, and now, they were going to pay the price. As the human burst out of the lab and into the open expanse of the alien station, the scientists watched, paralyzed with fear. Their once thought impenetrable fortress had been shattered by a single human warrior, and there was no telling what kind of destruction he would bring next. The human's rapid escape from the lab sent shockwaves throughout the alien space station. What had begun as an exciting scientific discovery was now a terrifying nightmare. The alien scientists, still floating in disarray from the sudden gravity malfunction, watched in stunned silence as the human, moving with supernatural agility, disappeared into the corridors. It was as though the very laws of physics bent to his will. No one had ever seen anything like it before. The lead scientist, his body bruised and aching from the earlier collision, clutched his communicator and quickly signaled to the station's command center. "We have a serious problem," he gasped, his voice shaking. "The human is far beyond our understanding. He's a weapon, a living, breathing weapon. We need to contain him now." Meanwhile, the human, still struggling to piece together the fragmented memories of his long-forgotten past, moved through the station's dark, metallic corridors. His heightened senses scanned every corner, every shadow, as though his body had never known fear. The stasis pod had left him disoriented at first, but now, a flood of memories began to resurface. Images of a war, massive battles, unimaginable destruction, and his own role as a super soldier, designed to fight alien invaders, flashed through his mind like a series of rapid fire. He was no ordinary man. He was something far more dangerous. A product of a forgotten war. The human's sharp, rapid thoughts brought a sense of clarity. He knew what he had to do. He remembered his mission. It wasn't just about survival, it was about protecting his people, humanity, from those who had invaded their world. And now, his mission had become even more urgent. His planet, his Earth, had been taken from him. The thought of what the aliens had done to his home fueled his anger, igniting something deep within him. But the aliens, who were still recovering from the chaos he had caused, were not going to let him roam free. The alien leaders, having received reports of the humans' sudden awakening, convened in their high command room. The atmosphere was thick with tension as they discussed what to do next. This human, this being, is a threat, said the highest-ranking leader, his reptilian eyes narrowing in concern. We cannot allow him to roam freely on the station. His power is unlike anything we've encountered. It must be contained. We've already tried our best to contain him, another leader replied, their voice tinged with frustration. The force fields didn't work. The lab is in ruins. Our best AI defense systems failed. This is not just an anomaly, it's an extinction-level event. The leaders exchanged uneasy glances, their fears growing with each passing second. They had underestimated this human, and now they feared what he might do next. It doesn't matter how powerful he is, the lead scientist argued, trying to calm the council. We have the technology to deal with him. We've studied their ancient weaponry and their military tactics for centuries. He's just one human. We can trap him, contain him, and then study him. He may be enhanced, but he's still just a soldier. The high-ranking leader didn't seem convinced. His ability to disable our security systems with nothing but his reflexes and raw power is something we've never seen before. Our AI traps, our most advanced drones, are helpless against him. We are dealing with a being who is not just strong, he is highly adaptive. This is something different. Despite their doubts, the council quickly decided to launch the station's final defense protocol, the containment net. A network of high-tech lasers, magnetic fields, and pressure chambers would trap and neutralize the human. It was their last hope of containing the threat before it escalated further. Back in the station's corridors, the human's senses were on high alert as he navigated the maze of halls. His memories were coming back to him in fragments. He could recall his training, the relentless drills, the endless cycles of combat simulations. His body, designed to be the ultimate weapon, reacted almost instinctively to any threat. And as he moved forward, he could feel it, the pressure from the alien forces. They were coming after him, and they were not going to stop until they had him back in a containment pod or dead. But the human had no intention of being captured again. The sound of the containment net coming online reverberated through the walls, and the human's instincts kicked in. He darted to a nearby junction, eyes scanning every corner for a potential trap. He could feel the pressure building. The aliens were preparing for something big. Suddenly, a loud, mechanical hiss echoed through the station as a series of doors slid shut, sealing off exits in every direction. Energy beams crackled, lighting up the space, forming a grid of searing lasers. Magnetic fields flared to life, creating a series of invisible walls that blocked any attempt at escape. The human's heart raced, but his mind stayed calm. He could hear the hum of the AI defense systems activating, calculating, anticipating his every move. The trap was set. The human's eyes narrowed. He could see the lasers flicker in a rhythmic pattern, their energy pulses timed to perfection. But to someone with his enhanced reflexes, the lasers were nothing more than a challenge. He waited for the perfect moment, his pulse steady, his mind sharp. Then, in a blur of motion, he dashed forward. The lasers fired, but the human was already gone, his body moving too quickly for the advanced technology to track. He dodged through the beams with ease, his movements fluid and precise, as though he had done this 1,000 times before. The AI defense systems, which were designed to counteract any threats with impeccable precision, failed to predict his actions. They had underestimated him. The human reached the control center where the core of the containment net was located. A large, floating console stood before him, surrounded by a series of alien operators monitoring the security grid. He could see their anxious expressions as they realized what was happening. The human was inside their trap, and he was far from helpless. With a growl of frustration, the operators tried to activate more defensive measures, but the human was faster. His hand shot out and with a single, swift movement, he slammed his fist into the console. Sparks flew, and the lights above flickered as the system short-circuited. Within seconds, the containment net collapsed. The magnetic fields dissipated, the laser beams vanished, and the pressure chambers fell silent. The alien operators were left frozen in shock. They had failed. Impossible, one of the aliens muttered under his breath. The human stood tall in the now disabled control room, his chest heaving with adrenaline. His mind was still sharp, and his body, though battered, remained a force to be reckoned with. His memories of battle, of the war he had fought and the planet he had lost, filled him with a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. This was a mission to reclaim what was taken from him. The human's eyes burned with resolve. The aliens had underestimated him. And now, they were going to pay the price for it. The tension in the alien facility was palpable as the human continued his relentless advance. With every step he took, the air grew thicker with the sense of impending danger. The walls, once silent and cold, now seemed to echo with the anxious murmurs of the aliens scrambling to track him down. They had underestimated him before, and now they were paying the price. Despite their advanced technology, the aliens had never faced anything like this human, this ancient warrior who was now a living nightmare. His speed, strength, and intelligence made him a dangerous foe. As he moved through the station, there was no room for error. Every corner was a potential ambush, every shadow a threat, but he moved with confidence, knowing that he was the hunter, not the prey. The aliens, now in full panic mode, realized that brute force alone wouldn't be enough to stop him. They quickly deployed their most advanced enforcers, towering robotic warriors equipped with pulse weapons and reinforced armor. These mechanical giants were designed to crush any opponent, but they had never encountered a force like the human. The first wave of robots charged at him, their heavy steps shaking the ground beneath them. Their weapons whirred to life, energy pulses crackling in the air. The human didn't flinch. He had been in situations like this before. His body was engineered for combat, and his reflexes were sharper than the deadliest blade. With lightning speed, he dodged the first robotic strike, rolling to the side and landing on his feet. The robot's massive fist smashed into the ground where he had just been, sending a shockwave through the room. The human didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, his hand reaching for the robot's exposed power core. In one fluid motion, he tore it from its chest, sending sparks flying as the robot collapsed to the ground in a heap of scrap metal. The remaining robots hesitated for a moment, momentarily stunned by the sheer ferocity of the human's attack. But they quickly recalibrated and charged again, each one more determined than the last. The human was surrounded now, outnumbered and seemingly trapped. But there was no fear in his eyes. He wasn't just surviving, he was fighting to win. As the robots closed in, he moved with a fluid grace, his body a blur as he dismantled them one by one. With each strike, the human's precision was flawless. His enhanced strength allowed him to rip through the robotic armor, exposing vital components and disabling them in a matter of seconds. One robot's laser cannon fired, but the human was already on the move, sidestepping the blast and knocking the weapon out of its grip. Another attempted to crush him with its massive hands, but the human grabbed its wrist, twisting it until the robot's arm snapped off at the joint. It was a spectacle of destruction, robotic enforcers falling like broken toys, their circuits sparking and their limbs flying in all directions. And through it all, the human's face remained stoic, his movements calculating and deliberate. He wasn't fighting for survival anymore. This was his purpose, his mission. To destroy the alien invaders and reclaim the Earth that had been stolen from him. But the aliens weren't foolish. They knew the human was a threat, and they had more than just robots at their disposal. As the last of the mechanical enforcers was taken down, the human found himself surrounded by dozens of alien soldiers, armed with pulse rifles, energy shields, and high-tech explosives. The room became a battleground, filled with the sounds of weapons charging and the hum of alien technology. The soldiers closed in, weapons raised, ready to end the human's rampage once and for all. The human glanced around, calculating the odds. There was no way out. No way to fight them all head-on. His mind raced for a solution, analyzing every possibility in a fraction of a second. And then, a spark of memory triggered deep within his mind. He remembered something hidden within his own body. A device, implanted long ago, during the years of the war. The cloaking device. It was a last resort tool, a tactical advantage that would allow him to become invisible to their sensors. Without hesitation, he activated the device. The world around him seemed to vanish. The aliens' weapons were now useless, their scanners unable to pick up even a trace of his presence. For a moment, there was only silence as the soldiers stood still, confused, searching in vain for their target. Then, in the blink of an eye, the human emerged from the shadows. The soldiers never had a chance. The human moved like a ghost, invisible, his footsteps silent as he struck down one enemy after another. His fist connected with an alien soldier's chest, sending him flying across the room. Another soldier's pulse rifle discharged, but the human was already behind him, disabling the weapon with a quick twist of his arm. The human's movements were precise, calculated, and deadly. He didn't just defeat his enemies, he disarmed them, leaving them helpless and incapacitated. As he moved through the chaos, the aliens began to realize the full extent of the threat they were facing. This human was not just a physical powerhouse, he was also a tactical genius. He fought with a mind as sharp as his body, using the environment to his advantage and staying one step ahead of the alien soldiers at all times. It became clear to the aliens that they could not simply overpower him. They needed a new strategy, a new approach, if they were going to have any hope of stopping him. But it was too late. As the last soldier fell to the ground, the human stood in the center of the room, surrounded by the wreckage of the battle. His chest heaved with each breath, his body battered but unbroken. He had made it through, but there was no time to rest. The mission was far from over. As he caught his breath, the human's eyes fell on a console near the far wall. His mind immediately went to work, analyzing the data on the screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. The aliens weren't just here to capture him, they had plans to wipe out the last remnants of humanity. They were preparing to launch a final assault on Earth, to finish what they had started so many years ago. The human's anger flared. The aliens had taken everything from him, his home, his people, his family. Now, they were preparing to eradicate the last hope for humanity. He could not allow that to happen. With newfound determination, the human disabled the console and downloaded the data. He knew what had to be done. The fight was far from over. The aliens would not escape retribution. And this time, he wouldn't stop until Earth was free. The human's mind raced with thoughts of his next move. There were no more mistakes. He was no longer the hunted, he was the hunter. And the aliens would soon learn that they had made the gravest mistake of all. As the human moved deeper into the alien facility, the tension in the air was palpable. His every step echoed through the metallic corridors, and his mind was consumed by the growing need to uncover the truth behind his imprisonment. The cloaking device had given him the advantage he needed to escape the alien forces, but now, something more powerful than simple survival drove him forward. The fragments of his past, the scattered pieces of memory, were starting to resurface, each revelation more painful and shocking than the last. It started with a flicker of recognition as he stumbled upon a forgotten room filled with dusty, disassembled technology. The walls were lined with storage units and weapon caches, but it was a terminal at the far end of the room that caught his attention. The interface was alien, but his mind, trained for combat and strategy, could still decipher it. He approached the terminal and began to tap on the keys, searching for something that would shed light on his forgotten past. As his fingers danced over the console, a series of images began to flood the screen. Fragments of old military plans, battle reports, and images of Earth before the invasion. His pulse quickened as the pictures became clearer, and the memories flooded back, rushing over him like a tidal wave. He saw his own face, young and full of hope, standing among a group of soldiers in Earth's final defense. The human race, united for the last time, had fought against an alien empire bent on destroying everything humanity held dear. The war had been catastrophic. The aliens, a ruthless and technologically superior species, had descended on Earth with a level of destruction that left nothing standing. They didn't just conquer, they obliterated. Cities were reduced to ashes, oceans boiled, and forests were burned to the ground. Humanity fought back with everything it had, but the alien forces were relentless, overwhelming, and superior in every way. The last-ditch efforts to defend Earth only prolonged the inevitable. The planet fell, and the human race was scattered like dust in the wind. As the human absorbed these painful truths, his anger grew. The aliens who had once held him captive were the same ones who had destroyed his home, killed his family, and wiped out his people. They had taken everything from him, leaving only a few survivors in the far corners of the galaxy. He had been preserved in cryo-sleep for centuries, his body kept frozen in time, while the alien empire had continued to thrive, unconcerned with the remnants of the species they had wiped out. In his mind's eye, he could see the final days of the war. The human military had been outmatched, outgunned, and outnumbered. They had fought valiantly, but their efforts were futile against the advanced alien technology. In one of the last battles, Earth's remaining forces had made a desperate attempt to launch a counterattack. The human warrior had been a part of that mission, one of the few elite soldiers who had been selected for the final defense. But it wasn't enough. The invasion succeeded, and Earth fell. He, along with a handful of others, had been placed in cryo-sleep, their bodies preserved for a future where humanity might one day rise again. The images on the terminal shifted once more, and he saw something else, something that made his heart race with both hope and rage. The remnants of humanity had not been completely wiped out. A few pockets of survivors still existed, scattered across the galaxy, holding out in secret bases and hidden colonies. These survivors had been fighting a losing battle, unable to retaliate against the overwhelming might of the alien empire. They were scattered, isolated, and slowly being hunted down by the very forces that had destroyed Earth. But the human knew something that the aliens did not: humanity was not finished. He had been part of the last great war, the final line of defense before Earth's downfall. And now, after centuries of being frozen in time, he had awoken, not as a mere relic of the past, but as humanity's hope. His body, a product of bioengineering and advanced military technology, had been designed to fight in wars like these. He was stronger, faster, and smarter than any regular human soldier. He had been created to stand against the greatest threats to humanity, and now, his mission was clear. The human's heart burned with a new fury, one that was not just born from personal loss, but from the realization that his people were still out there, fighting for survival. The alien empire had thought they had finished the job, but they had underestimated humanity's will to survive. He would not let his people die in vain. He would find them, and he would lead them to victory. His mission had just become much bigger than himself. It wasn't just about revenge, it was about reclaiming humanity's future. He would reunite the scattered survivors, rally them against their alien oppressors, and take back Earth, no matter the cost. The alien empire, so confident in their power, would soon face the full wrath of a human army led by the most powerful soldier they had ever seen. The terminal continued to flash data before him, and the human absorbed every piece of information, committing it to memory. He learned that the alien empire's control over the galaxy was not absolute. There were cracks in their dominance, resistance movements, uprisings, and hidden alliances that had formed among the oppressed species of the galaxy. The aliens had spread their influence far and wide, but they had not yet conquered every corner of the universe. Humanity, though broken, was not entirely alone. There were still allies out there, other species who had suffered under the alien empire's reign. Together, they could stand against the aliens and take back what had been lost. But the road ahead would not be easy. The alien empire would not let go of their prize without a fight. They had already tried to wipe out humanity once, and they would not hesitate to do it again if they thought the human race was becoming a threat. The human knew he had to act fast. He couldn't afford to waste time. Every moment that passed brought more danger to the remaining survivors, and every delay meant more lives lost. As he stood before the terminal, the human's mind raced with plans. He would need resources, weaponry, ships, and allies. The alien empire had far more advanced technology than he could hope to match on his own, but he was not alone. The resistance movements, the scattered human survivors, and the other oppressed species were his key to victory. They would need to band together, combine their strengths, and strike at the heart of the alien empire. His eyes hardened with resolve. The aliens had destroyed his home, but they had underestimated humanity's resilience. They had taken everything from him, but they had forgotten one thing: humanity would never give up. As long as there was a single human left standing, there would be a fight. And now, with the past revealed and the future ahead of him, the human knew what he had to do. He would gather the scattered survivors, unite the galaxy's resistance, and lead them into battle against the alien empire. He would take back Earth, reclaim the future of his people, and show the galaxy the true power of humanity. The human's plan was set into motion. After years of lying dormant, his body and mind fully awakened, he was ready to lead humanity's charge back from the brink of extinction. The alien empire had made a grave mistake when they thought they had wiped out all remnants of Earth's population. They had never anticipated the fury and power of a single human warrior. Their worst nightmare had been awakened. The human had spent weeks strategizing, using the stolen alien technology and weaponry he had gathered from the alien facility. He had adapted quickly, learning to wield their advanced tools as if they were his own. With every piece of technology, every weapon he used, he grew more dangerous. But he knew the key to success wasn't just the advanced tech, it was the people he would rally around him. He couldn't take down the alien empire alone. Humanity's survival depended on unity, on a rebellion strong enough to challenge the vast power of the alien forces. The first wave of the human rebellion began in secret, hidden bases scattered across the galaxy where the last survivors had been fighting in silence. The human led a force of scattered resistance groups, some who had lived on the fringes of space, some who had survived by hiding in abandoned colonies. They were a ragtag army, but they had something that the alien empire could never understand: the will to survive, the thirst for justice, and the indomitable spirit of humanity. The rebellion's first strike came in the form of a sudden and devastating attack on one of the alien empire's outlying colonies. The humans had studied the alien tactics, learned their weaknesses, and hit them where they least expected it. Orbital bombardments lit up the sky as ships, human and alien alike, engaged in fierce dogfights above the colony. Explosions rocked the surface, sending plumes of fire and smoke into the atmosphere. The humans fought like they had nothing to lose, because they didn't. The aliens were not just invaders, they were the oppressors, the ones who had stolen everything from humanity, and now it was time for payback. The human, leading the charge on the ground, fought with unparalleled ferocity. Armed with advanced alien weaponry and his own bio-enhanced abilities, he took down wave after wave of alien forces. The battle was brutal. Close-quarters combat erupted as the human and his soldiers clashed with the alien defenders in the ruins of the colony. Lasers and plasma fire lit up the battlefield, as the human moved with the precision and speed of a soldier born for war. He was relentless, tearing through alien forces with a single-minded purpose. Every soldier he fought alongside, every comrade he saved, every alien he defeated, it all fueled his determination to keep fighting. But it wasn't just the victory that kept him going, it was the memory of his fallen comrades. Soldiers like Bonner, his close friend who had fought beside him in the final days of Earth's defense, who had given everything to try and save their home. Bonner had died on the battlefield, fighting for a future that now seemed almost impossible. The human had seen his friend fall, but he had promised himself that Bonner's sacrifice would not be in vain. Every alien he killed was a small measure of justice for those who had died in the final days of the war, and every battle won was a step closer to reclaiming Earth. The rebellion's momentum began to grow. The word of the human warriors' victories spread quickly throughout the galaxy. Many alien species, oppressed by the Empire's tyrannical rule, began to join the rebellion. They saw the human not just as a symbol of resistance, but as a beacon of hope. The human was not just fighting for his own survival, he was fighting for the survival of all who had been oppressed by the alien empire. And with each victory, the rebellion grew stronger. As the humans' forces pushed deeper into alien-controlled space, they drew closer to the heart of the empire, the alien capital. It was a massive, heavily fortified world, the seat of power for the empire. The alien leader, the tyrant who had masterminded the destruction of Earth, resided there. It was to this place that the human and his rebellion would march. They knew the risks. The alien capital was surrounded by layers of defenses, including fleets of warships and an army that could easily outnumber their own. But the human had a vision of a world where humanity could stand free, where the alien oppressors would finally be brought to justice. As the final assault began, the rebellion's forces fought their way through the outer defenses of the alien capital, cutting down alien soldiers in droves. Ships collided in mid-space, sending debris flying as both sides fought fiercely for control of the skies. Ground forces engaged in vicious firefights, and the human, leading from the front, cut through the alien ranks with unparalleled precision. He had no fear, only the fire of vengeance and the deep, abiding love for his people. Every alien that fell brought him closer to his goal, to face the alien leader and bring an end to the empire that had destroyed his world. Finally, after days of brutal fighting, the human and his forces reached the heart of the capital. The alien leader's fortress loomed ahead, a towering structure built into the planet's surface, filled with advanced technology and guarded by the best warriors the empire had to offer. The human knew that the final confrontation would not be easy. The alien leader was no ordinary tyrant, he was a ruthless, calculating being, a product of an AI-driven empire that valued supremacy above all else. The alien leader had been the mastermind behind the invasion of Earth, and now, after centuries of destruction, the human was coming for him. The final battle was set. The human and his forces stormed the fortress, cutting down guards and soldiers with brutal efficiency. The alien leader's personal guard, a squad of elite soldiers enhanced by the best alien technology, stood in the way. But the human was unstoppable. He fought with a fury fueled by his fallen comrades, by the destruction of his home, and by the knowledge that the future of humanity depended on his success. Each step took him closer to the alien leader, who stood waiting for him in the heart of the fortress. Finally, the human and the alien leader came face to face in a chamber of glowing light. The alien leader stood tall, a being of immense power and intellect, surrounded by holographic displays and advanced weapons. He sneered at the human, his eyes full of contempt. "You are nothing," the alien leader hissed. "Your people are weak, and their destruction was inevitable. You cannot stop the future. The empire will rule forever." But the human's voice was calm, filled with the strength of his resolve. "The future is not yours to control," he said, his eyes burning with the fire of justice. "The human race will rise again, and you will fall." With those words, the battle began. The alien leader unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, but the human moved with lightning speed, dodging and countering with his enhanced strength. The fight was intense, a clash of ideologies as much as it was a battle of physical prowess. The alien leader, using his advanced technology, fought with precision and strategy, but the human's fury and determination drove him forward. Every blow the alien leader struck only fueled the human's resolve. Finally, with a brutal, decisive strike, the human brought the alien leader to his knees. The final blow was not just one of physical force, it was the culmination of years of pain, loss, and sacrifice. The alien empire had taken everything from him, but now, he had taken everything back. The alien leader lay defeated, and the rebellion had won. The alien empire's grip on the galaxy had been broken. The human had done what no one else had thought possible. Humanity had not only survived, but it had triumphed. As the human stood victorious, his eyes turned to the sky, knowing that Earth was within reach. The war was over, and the future was theirs to rebuild. The human had led them to victory, not just for himself, but for all of humanity. The final confrontation had been won, but the real battle had only just begun, rebuilding, restoring, and reclaiming their home. The air was still thick with the remnants of battle, the smoke of 1,000 burning warships still hanging in the atmosphere of the alien capital. The alien empire had been brought to its knees, its leader defeated, and its once invincible forces scattered across the galaxy. But in the midst of this victory, there was something even greater unfolding, an opportunity. The opportunity to rebuild, to restore what had been lost, and to prove to the universe that humanity was far from finished. The human warrior, the one who had fought through countless battles, had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious, stood before a vast audience. The words he was about to speak would change everything. In a darkened command center, with the remnants of the rebellion's forces gathered around him, the human prepared to broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. He knew the importance of this moment. Earth, once thought to be a distant memory, a forgotten world swallowed by time and war, was about to become a symbol of something much greater, a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity. He cleared his throat, his voice strong and filled with determination. To the galaxy, hear this: Earth is no longer a lost cause. We are not just survivors. We are humanity, and we will rise again. His words echoed across the galaxy, reaching the farthest corners of space. There were still many who thought humanity was gone, wiped out by the relentless alien empire. But now, they would hear the truth. Humanity was not extinct. The fire of life still burned, and it would not be extinguished by the forces of oppression. The human warrior, once thought to be a relic of a long-forgotten war, had become something much more. He was the symbol of humanity's resilience, a beacon of hope for all who had suffered under the alien empire's tyranny. His message didn't just reach the ears of his fellow humans. It reached the ears of those who had been enslaved by the alien empire for centuries, those who had fought in the shadows, waiting for a moment like this. The humans' victory had inspired countless others to rise up against their alien oppressors. The galaxy, once dominated by a ruthless alien empire, was now on the brink of change. The rebellion that had started with a single human warrior had turned into a coalition of species, freedom fighters from every corner of the galaxy. They were united under one banner, the banner of humanity. As the human stood there, watching the broadcast unfold, he knew this was just the beginning. The rebellion had won a decisive victory, but the war was far from over. The alien empire may have been defeated, but its remnants still lingered in the darkest corners of the galaxy, waiting for their chance to rise again. The human knew that humanity's fight was not just about survival, it was about reclaiming their place in the galaxy, about forging a new future. The survivors of humanity rallied behind the human warrior, their hope reignited by his words and his actions. The galaxy had once thought of humanity as weak, as a species too small and too frail to make a real difference. But now, the galaxy would learn the true power of humanity, the power of unity, the power of never giving up, no matter the odds. The human had led them to victory, and now he would lead them to a new era. The first step in that journey was the rebuilding of Earth. The human warrior stood tall as the survivors began to rebuild their home, the place that had once been the cradle of human civilization. Earth was scarred, broken, and battered from centuries of alien occupation, but it was still Earth. The planet that had given birth to humanity's greatest achievements, to the hopes and dreams of generations, was not lost. It had been battered, but it had not been broken. As the human looked out over the horizon, the sky above Earth began to shift. The once darkened skies, filled with the remnants of alien warships, began to clear. The first signs of a new dawn were on the horizon. The human warrior stood in front of a crowd of survivors, his silhouette outlined against the rising sun. The same sun that had once witnessed humanity's rise to power, now watched as they began to rise again. The war was over. The battle for Earth had been won. But now came the hard part, the rebuilding. The human's heart swelled with pride and hope as he watched the survivors begin to work. They were not just rebuilding their homes, they were rebuilding their future. Cities began to take shape again, their foundations laid by the hands of those who had survived, those who had fought for a better tomorrow. The ruins of the alien occupation were being cleared away, and in their place, new structures, new cities, and new dreams were rising from the ashes. The human's role in this new era was clear. He was not just a soldier, a warrior, or a leader. He was a symbol of everything humanity could be: strong, resilient, and unyielding in the face of impossible odds. The human was the one who had led them to victory, but now he would lead them into the future. There was much to be done. The galaxy was vast, and humanity had been scattered across it, but Earth was their home. It was their starting point, their foundation. And from here, they would build an empire of their own, a future where humanity would no longer be the underdog but would stand tall among the stars. But even as the human gazed at the horizon, he knew that the road ahead would not be easy. The galaxy was still full of dangers, still full of enemies who would stop at nothing to ensure humanity's extinction. The remnants of the alien empire were still out there, scattered and broken, but they were not gone. And there were other threats, unknown enemies who would test humanity's resolve. The fight for survival was never truly over. But humanity had proven one thing: they would never give up. In the midst of the rebuilding, the human took a moment to reflect on the journey that had brought him here. He had once been just a soldier, a bioengineered super soldier designed to fight for a world that no longer existed. But now, he was the one leading the charge to restore humanity's place in the galaxy. His mission had changed. It was no longer about fighting for survival. It was about fighting for a future where humanity could stand tall, proud of who they were, and where they could look toward the stars with hope instead of fear. As the sun set on the first day of this new era, the human stood tall, his eyes fixed on the horizon. The galaxy was vast, and there was much to be done. But for the first time in centuries, humanity had a chance, a real chance, to rebuild, to thrive, and to reclaim their place among the stars. The human warrior had led humanity through the darkest of times, and now, as Earth began to heal, he looked out over the horizon filled with promise. The alien empire had been crushed, but humanity's true strength, its unity, its resilience, was just beginning to take shape. The true power of humanity had been revealed, the power of never giving up, no matter the odds. And with that power, humanity was ready to take its place in the galaxy once more.